Thank you. Thank you. And now for our private sector reactors. I am pleased to introduce our first reactor from the private sector. He is the founder and managing partner of Nara Venture Capital, a company which invests in high technology companies in the fields of semiconductors, communications, computing, software, and alternative energy. He holds a PhD and Master of Science degrees in electrical engineering from Stanford University, where he co-invented the grating light valve with one of his professors and colleagues from Stanford. He holds 6 US and international patents. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all please welcome Dr. Paco Sandejas.
Thank you. Good morning. Honorable secretaries, please forgive me if I won't mention all of you. There's so many and we have so few minutes. Esteemed colleagues in the private, government, and academic service. To get started, and since it's morning, I'll say, okay, I am the husband of Christine Jacob. Okay, so can we focus on the talk now? So if you're wondering, now stop. So now I'll start with my speech. I'm truly humbled to be given a chance to represent in my own limited way the business sector in today's economic briefing. As many of you know, my area of work is highly focused on high-tech or high-technology entrepreneurship, and in the area also of science and technology, and also in education. And I don't want to waste your valuable time repeating the well-deserved praise for our government representatives here for the accomplishments of this present administration. But I would like to summarize a few positive notes, however. Like the Philippines, I think, can be a proud nation today. Even in my field of IT, I see just an unusual, it's almost like a hype. There's so much startup activity in software, in IT. And the focus of this administration, as I've read the report, you secretaries kept me up all night. Thank you very much. But the focus is correct. You're focused on education, on infrastructure, good governance, and even our sports aren't that bad. We have a great improvement in our football team, the Ascals, and it fits the physical physique. So I'm very happy also for the sport that I love. There's a high degree of trust lately with this administration. I personally feel it and I experience it because I interact with a number of you in trying to get projects done. And many of you might know I'm a very scrupulous business person, so I hope this means something. Good people are also willing to join this government and to take a pay cut for a while to serve the country and the people. And many people are willing to invest. Some of you know that I've been doing the brain gain for 20 years. And we've been trying to lure Filipino Americans back to the Philippines. And I have to say, in this last 2 years, it's been unusual, the number of interested parties who have spoken to us, asked about relocating and joining the companies or the startups. But there are areas for improvement, of course. I'm not here just to sip or suck up to you government officials. I think you asked for constructive suggestions. The above accomplishments are just the beginning. Like the professionals who have signed up to join this great team here, there's still much work to be done. So yesterday I decided to use what I love, the internet, and go on Facebook and then ask the opinions of my friends on Facebook and see if you had one question or one suggestion to suggest to these secretaries, what would we suggest? I received so many responses in the 8 hours that I conducted this survey from 6 o'clock to like 2 a.m. And it's funny, I think some of my suggestions were the ones that were not ranked. I failed. But since I'm the speaker and I have a doctorate, I can doctor the results. But I'm going to doctor it by just kind of interpreting and analyzing the results. However, some of the results, number one was, let's invest in infrastructure for roads, airports, internet. Let's invest in broadband and make it cheaper. Let's improve the governance or the rule of law. And all of these things, actually, you're already doing. We have to commend you guys for doing this. And the efforts are there. The last one that was interesting came from a public official in Bacolod, Mardi Mapa, who used to be with me in student government at UP. And she said, stop bribing government officials for business permits, no matter what. It's nice to see that we also should talk to the private sector, and the private sector should pitch in. There are many good details, but in summary, I think I failed partially because I wanted, with the one question, to try and get to the root cause. What are the things that we can really do to make a big change? And with only one request, I think the root cause has to do with certain areas. And many of you know that I'm blessed to work with a group of good people like Daro Banatao and Fernando Zobel de Ayala in the Philippine Development Foundation. And in that foundation, some of the root causes that we've identified are we really need to focus on science and technology. We have to be competitive. Of course, we also have to focus on education to allow people, the masses, to uplift themselves. And also we're focused on information technology to help get the true pulse of the people, to educate, to equalize, to provide financial services, and for us to be more productive. And also to catch the crooks. But from my engagement in projects with the government, I would like to make just 3 suggestions. Number 1 is, like Nike, just do it. You're actually really doing a good job of talking less and doing more. But I have to say, and many of us all agree, even in the public sector, we need to work faster. We could lose the backing of the many good PPP proponents, the private sector proponents who are here, like many of our friends. But patience in the business world only runs so far. After a while, we keep trying. If it doesn't happen, then they'll just have to find something else to do because they have to invest their money. So we are Team Philippines Incorporated, and we have to behave like a competitive company, the way Apple and Samsung fight each other and compete for our loyalty. We need to behave like a private company to set goals and kill ourselves, working so hard to accomplish these goals and to beat our competitors who are coming from the other countries. So our investment, for example, in a Chinese wireless company for our health monitoring, our investment there and a comparison of a research project that I'm helping in the Philippines with the DOST and our friends in private sector here, I compare the pace, we're 2 to 3 times slower. We're arguing about how to hire the right people, how to procure the equipment, while this Chinese company that Nara is invested in is running. They're coming up with products just like that, 5-6 months to get things done. Here, 5-6 months, we haven't hired the guy. So it's very hard. We need to work faster. We need to work and innovate because we'll be beaten to the market. Of course, I know we're working on it, and I know that DBM is doing its best and other government agencies to make sure that we can recruit the best, and we'll get to that the next. But before I get to that, number 2 is we should use technology to be more competitive. I know it's already in the roadmap, but we need to focus on science and technology and innovation industries so that we can get serious about ICT because it is also a national tool. For example, in my dealings with the government and also in the private sector, it's very efficient to avoid the traffic and just have teleconferences and video conferences. Well, when I try and do it in a government office, oftentimes it fails. So us in the private sector, we need to put more broadband in the government offices. So whether we have there's also an argument about the Department of ICT. Frankly, me, personally, I don't care whether we have a department or not. What I think we really need is a person in charge of ICT in this country so we can have an efficient bureaucracy and valuable decision data and analysis available for the Team Philippines Incorporated to compete. So this person, whether it's a department secretary or not, has to have the know-how, he has to have the funds, he has to have the team, and he has to be empowered to accomplish his goals. Finally, number 3, and most important, I believe, is we need to get the right people to lead and to manage the projects. One thing I've learned working in the Valley, in Silicon Valley for more than 2 decades, is that if things are not working, if things are not moving fast, normally the problem is at the top. And oftentimes we fire the CEO. We need to get used to firing people. We need to get to the root cause. And yes, we know that the obstacles are there, right? There's so many obstacles. Many of you come from private sector in the government now, and we know it's hard. because at least some of us have tried to engage and we've seen it. It's not easy for you. But even if it is politically hard, and even if it's due to friendship, because face it, everyone here in the Philippines is a friend, or we all call each other pare, idol, whatever, we sometimes need to make changes. So we need to learn to fire our friends. Let's just learn to do it well and with respect, with dignity and fairness. The good example is just recently, in the last day, the example of Pope Benedict, the first pope to resign in 500 years. This is an example because he realized he could not function well as a pontiff because his job is very demanding. So let's be kind. It is better to be kind to our friends if we find there's a better role for you. Maybe not as CEO or as manager, but a different role. And so it's positive, right? We have to look at the positive side. And finally, for us from the private sector, I think it's important also that we help out. That's a reminder that my time's up. So of course, to ensure that we have the right people, lastly, we have to compensate them well. In the long run, we need to resolve to reform, long-term reform, like Singapore, to pay the government officials and our public servants like private sector executives. For now, I see though that there is leeway in the way government funds work. We just have to be smart about it, and I'm happy that there are some lawyers also in public service that can find ways to make these things happen. What we just have to work for is that this application of these workarounds are fairly applied and transparent to all the good professionals working. And finally, of course, we can't always be suggesting to the public sector. Us in the private sector, what we should do is, number one, let's not threaten our public officials. Let's not make life hard for them and scare them and sue them. And if you're not good, don't apply for the job, please. And finally, let's please give them a big hand because they're doing a good job. They're doing a good job. We're all there behind you. We are on the right track, Team Philippines, Inc. We're mostly united. We are inspired. We just have to resolve to put in the hard work, work faster, and use technology better, and ensure somehow that we have the right people in the right jobs. Let's go Team Philippines. One big fight.